Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth Arkstone Happy Hour discussion, and this one is all about evolution. Thanks for joining us here on the YouTubes. And I'm joined with Lisa, co-host. You can't see us, but we're speaking at you.
All right. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. This is our sixth happy hour, our second virtual, and in the true spirit of evolution, we have asked the OK Factor to kind of play us into today's festivities and give us a little music to be inspired by. So
To warm us up.
To warm us up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take it away, OK Factor. Olivia and Carla, go ahead.
We're going to share another original, but the first tune you hear is actually a traditional Shetland tune. This is a tune we wrote called Switchback.
Hey, before you guys start,
Yeah.
maybe bring the gain down a little bit because we're getting a little digital clipping coming in. It's the fun of these internet live streams, right? All
This
kinds
is
of
the
different-
magic. It's
the
happening
magic in real time.
How's this?
I think that'll be better.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yay, thank you. I think we're gonna play, one more. Okay, do you want to do Beach Spring? Okay. We're gonna probably play just one more. This is an arrangement of a traditional hymn tune called Beach Spring. And this is probably a good one to end on because it's a tune that we arranged this past summer, I think. But it's one that we wanted to do for a really long time. And it kind of just, it's one of those pieces of music that just sort of like hits you in the gut and really centers you. And so we love playing it for that reason. And we offer it to you for whatever it needs to be for you today. This is our arrangement of Beach Spring. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much. The okay factor, that was beautiful.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks, Carla. So as Olivia and Carla are getting packed up, we want to take a minute as we transition to acknowledging our sponsors and having our panel discussion. We want to take a minute to acknowledge and consider the space and the land that we're on here, and acknowledge that Arkstone is located on the traditional lands of many Native and Indigenous peoples, mainly the Dakota and Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, and Chippewa people. We also recognize that this acknowledgement is not the final solution, but it's a small first step to work towards transformative change and to bring more awareness of Native and Indigenous presence and fight against historical amnesia. So with that, we'd like to
recognize our sponsors.
Yes.
So these guys have been with us for a while now. Davin, you've been at Arkstone since we started doing this. It feels like coming in with just being so kind with us. But we'd like to recognize Eastlake Craft Brewing and Studio Distilling. We really appreciate the ongoing support and with awesome local businesses like you. So I'd like to introduce you really quickly. We can start with you, Shelley. You can just give us a little bit more of the lowdown on Studio Distilling.
And for those of you at home, you'll get to see Shelley here in a moment. Yes, through the magic of the inner tubes.
Yeah, so I'm Shelley Daly. I'm with Studio Distilling. We're a craft whiskey distillery in the Midway neighborhood of St. Paul. We've been open to the public just over 2 years. We have lots of award-winning whiskeys that you can come swing by the distillery and come sample and purchase. We're in over 100 liquor stores around the state and over a dozen bars and restaurants. So you can find us online, and we appreciate everyone drinking and supporting local between us and all the great craft breweries and craft wineries. Definitely a coronavirus activity right now is de-stressing and having a drink.
We did actually bid on one of your tastings, so we still have to get in and use it. One of the, I was bugged by somebody that's
Yeah.
big whiskey
We
drinker,
need to
so
get
he's
that
ready.
scheduled. Yeah, we not only bid, we won that.
We won.
Yes.
Right. All right. Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah. We are doing private tours. So yeah, as long as you wear your mask, you're welcome to continue to come in small groups. So we'd love to see you.
And I think if you registered ahead of time for this event, you'll be put in a drawing and hopefully you'll have your own tasting.
That's right.
Any luck.
All right. Okay, then we've got Davin from Eastlake.
Thanks, Shelley.
Hello, so I'm Davin. I'm the events coordinator at Eastlake Craft Brewery. We're in the Midtown Global Market. There's not a lot of events for me to be coordinating right now, but shortly after this pandemic begun, we made a big pivot towards doing delivery of beer now. So it started with South Minneapolis and then added North, Northeast, and St. Paul and some of the metro area now. So that's a big part. And we've been able to bring in some of the local food vendors in the Midtown Global Market, and we're delivering their food as well. So maybe some of you folks picked up some of that stuff, and hope you did. That's awesome. But yeah, we are open in the tap room, in our dugout space indoors, and then the patio. It's a great week for the patio right now. So we're doing what we can with all this, and happy to be part of this.
And local people, we have a discount code for you. We'll say it at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and say it right now too. It's Happy Arc to get 20% off beer and delicious food from Midtown Global Market and Eastlake swag. Thank you, Davin.
And that's Happy Arc, A-R-C. Happy, H-A-P-P-Y, A-R-C, all one word.
Thank you. Yes, that's true. Okay. All right. Thanks, sponsors.
So we also, in the tradition of the happy hour, we have a very worthy nonprofit that we want to pull everyone's attention to. And I guess with that, I hand it to you, Lisa.
Sure. So we've decided this time we're highlighting Indigenous roots. So we've got Raina here to kind of give us a little bit more about this amazing organization.
Hi, everybody. Thank you to the sponsors and to the organizers for this event. My name is Raina Day. I'm one of the logistical coordinators and admin people for Indigenous Roots. We're a local nonprofit organization based on the east side of St. Paul. And our mission is dedicated to arts and activism. And kind of what we've been up to during this whole COVID time is really holding space for community organizations such as cultural groups and a lot of like individual artists to have places to be able to practice their cultural songs and dancing, and also have studio time. I'm really excited to be here with all you amazing people. Thank you.
Yes, so we always keep these events free, but if you're able to, we encourage donating, and we'll have information in the chat, as well as Signy will put it in the chat so you can see it on YouTube, where to donate, as well as on our website. Be generous if you're able. All right, without further ado, we can get to the program. Okay. We've got a really great 3 panelists that we're very excited about today to talk to. And I was telling them earlier, I've been creeping a little bit on their social media to learn more about them. I've listened to podcasts. I've been playing around with apps and ordering food and all sorts of things just to get to the hang of who we have on the panel today. So I'm going to do a brief introduction, and then I'm going to let them speak for themselves. Otherwise, it's just me reading their bios. So we've got Twila Dang, founder and CEO of Matriarch Digital Media. We've got Michelle Maryns, founder and creator of AI software WeSparkle. I love that name. And Nikki Klocker, director of operations at Grand Cafe at Eastside. So why don't we start by just kind of doing a quick intro for you three. And Twila, we can start with you.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today. This is great. This is my first time participating, so I'm pretty excited. I got to hear like strings today. So That was already awesome. I'm Twila. I run Matriarch Digital Media. We are a women-focused, women-centered media company here in the Twin Cities. Our mission is simple. We are changing the way the world talks to and talks about women and girls. First, by having conversations with ourselves, where we change the way that we talk about and to ourselves, and then extending that conversation to include others. I've been doing that for the last 4 years. I had a goal of one day making podcasts and audio content the thing that I do every day, all day. And now I can proudly say I do that. I do that with my own company. And now I also do work with Minnesota Public Radio. We just released a podcast called Small Change, Money Stories from the Neighborhood, which was my first creation with them. And I'm really proud to get to do work every day that centers women.
I love that podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
Awesome. I missed Chris Farrell too. So it was like, oh, right. This is great. All right. Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle Maryns. Thank you so much for having me. I also loved the strings. My sister plays cello, so it was really nice to hear that. I am the founder and CEO, or the sparkler in chief at We Sparkle, and we help entrepreneurs save time and increase their sales through our AI-powered software tools. So our goal really is to help businesses start, grow, and shine. And we do that through our text message-based AI software. So I'm really excited to be here and to talk with everyone today.
How'd you come up with that name? I just am so curious.
Yeah. So I've sort of had a mantra, through my career. There have been lots of ups and downs, professionally and personally. And I have this sort of mantra that's, just let your light shine and help others shine, so that together we sparkle. And that became the name of our company.
That's cool. All right. Thank you. Nikki, what about you?
Hello, I'm Nikki Klocker. I'm Director of Operations for Grand Cafe in Eastside in the restaurant biz, which is interesting now. But I have my business partner, Jamie Malone, and we've kind of years prior have had this dream to change into more of a lifestyle brand, and kind of what COVID's happening or allowing us to do right now. So that's kind of it.
All right. That's great. Well, let's just hop into it. First question is kind of maybe a softball, but when you hear the term evolution, what comes to mind to you? And assume it's like everybody talks at once kind of thing. Should we start with something? Does anybody want to raise their hand? Go first. I don't want to put anyone on the spot.
Can you see how well trained we have become?
That's true. Yeah, no kidding. No,
Waiting
not
for
me.
the
I'm
pause.
waiting.
Yes, exactly.
Michelle, you look like you had a little sparkle.
Sure. When I think about evolution, I really think about progress. I suppose that evolution could be negative, but I tend to think more positively in that as we evolve, as we learn more information and hopefully become more inclusive, that we evolve and progress really as a society, and that things get better and things improve. So I tend to look the half glass full and see evolution as meaning progress.
Right.
Mhm. How about you, Nikki? You kind of alluded to this during your intro, the changes. A lot of evolution in your world lately.
Yeah, I think evolution can be a beautiful thing. It can be a very stressful thing, because usually it can take a really big thing happening to make you be like, you know what are the changes I need to make? What are the changes that we need to make? And then you evolve. So it can be a very painful process, but a very fulfilling one. And if you're growing and evolving, you're moving towards a greater experience. So it's rough, but it's good.
Not always pretty.
That is true. I agree. What about you, Twila?
I tend to think when I think about evolution, I usually think about growth. I am the opposite of Michelle. I'm a reformed pessimist. So I used to think the glass was half empty, cracked, and was leaking on the table. So I would say that, at least for me personally, true. I don't think you realize when you're evolving. I think because of the way that growth works and the way that change works, it sort of happens to you in small incremental steps, and you look up and you realize you've evolved from one place to another. And I was fortunate enough to do that. For me personally, a lot of that was motivated by having children, because I realized I didn't want them to have a worldview that felt smaller. I wanted them to feel like there was more possibility and to understand that there was more possibility. And I couldn't actually model that for them unless I believed it and lived it for myself. So they showed up, and I actively worked to change how I looked at the world and how I walked through the world and how I viewed the possibility of the world. And I think that a lot of times evolution feels like it's a very big concept, but it's actually much more small and contained, because it's individual acts by individual people that actually lead to, that big overall change that we see.
What you said kind of reminds me, and then you mentioned kids. It reminds me of, you don't see somebody's kids forever and they're always the same age. And then you see them and they're graduating from high school or something. It happens overnight, these small little increments of children evolving to bigger humans.
I'm trying to hold on to that now. I have one graduating this year, and I think just about every other day I go, but I remember bringing you through that door and you were a baby, and this is where you bumped your head when you learned to walk. And so it is absolutely a daily reminder of how much this family has evolved from the time we came back here.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, what have you learned through the whole pandemic? We've got the Black Lives Matter movement. Now we've got, the political unrest, everything, all of this uncertainty. How have you kind of handled that or evolved with
Well, I would
that?
say, how has it spurred your
How has it spurred your
evolution or growth? Have you found yourself letting certain things go or pursuing different things?
new things?
I think personally, I'm someone that I experienced childhood trauma. So I have PTSD from when I was a kid. And that's something that has always lived in my brain, and I've always analyzed it. And what gives people anxiety? Why is trauma, why doesn't your brain not file it away? So when the pandemic first hit, I really looked at it of where it's like, okay, everyone is experiencing trauma right now. How do we best deal with 80 team members that we had? How do we utilize our tools? How do we evolve from that and create a safe space? And then George Floyd was murdered. And then it's like, oh my God, all these people now, it's like you're experiencing trauma. So you look at your everyday life and you're like, okay, here are these really, really big things. Here's this global pandemic. Here is a country in complete unrest. What can I remove from my life? That really sucks because we're all dealing with just tragedies, And so I think for me personally, I've looked at my life and been like, no. Here's how I live a better life. And we've been trying to do that with our team as well. Like, how are you? What can we do better for your day? Is this, the steps in your workday that work best for you? How can we better assist you? So I think it's been this is a cleansing time.
I actually got that from the meal that you made, that we got from you guys. It was just like this, this wonderful, just such service oriented, just carefully crafted, beautiful, luxury that it's like we don't have right now.
Your home. That's like our greatest goal is how we used to be able to do that in the space of the restaurant. We can't do that anymore. So how do we create that oasis that we used to do in the restaurants in your own home? So that means a lot.
Yeah. Michelle, how have things changed for you?
Yes. It's changed a lot. So last year, we're a very early stage company. We just got started and we participated in the Minnesota Cup last year and won the Impact Division overall crowd favorite. Really excited. We had all of our business plan laid out and our financial projections. We did a beta test in January that went really successfully. We worked with a few salons here in town and rolled out our Sparkle Assistant, our first product with them, that helps with scheduling and answering customer questions and upselling and encouraging customer reviews. And that went really well. And we learned a lot from that. And we were planning to roll out in March. And then the pandemic hit and most of our beta customers were salons. And so they had to shut down. And so we sort of went into emergency crisis mode, just trying to assist them with navigating PPP, IDLE, some of the other programs out there, or, stand up websites so that they could continue operating and, accept online payments or maybe sell gift cards for future services. So it was a very confusing time. And we integrated Zoom into our assistant so that people could schedule Zooms, and sort of decided to strip down our product and make it kind of have more general appeal, and test it out to see who might be interested in using it. And most of our customers are small businesses, solo entrepreneurs. And what we kept hearing from people is we're stressed, we're tired. I think with evolution, there is that tension. It's challenging, and in some ways it helps you grow, but in some ways it's just really frustrating. It can feel like you might want to shut down. And we really want to see our customers, small businesses, continue to grow, continue to thrive. And so we decided as a team to start incorporating more wellness features into our assistant. So we just rolled out a meditation feature so that you can add regular meditation, and rolled out our meditation tool. And so we're trying to slowly add in wellness features so that as you're growing your business, the most important thing is really to take care of yourself. Even if it's just 5 minutes a day of meditation or a gratitude journal, something that will help you stay centered, because we really want to see all these small businesses continue, like all of the restaurants and places that we love to go to, we want them to survive. And so I think that self-care is really important to sustain yourself and your business.
Mhm.
I'm catching kind of a theme. What about you, Twila?
I'll be perfectly honest. The pandemic and George Floyd's murder did two things. They broke my civility and they broke my patience. I don't have the runway to wait for people to be to sort of catch up. I no longer have the level of patience that allows for sort of the convivial things that happen in business circles, where you have to sort of politely send an email and then politely send a reminder email and then politely send a reminder to the reminder email. I don't do any of that anymore. I wanted to make sure that what we do and where we spend our time and where we put our energy is purposeful. I happen to make podcasts in the Midwest, which means I'm not on the same playing field as the coasts. I'm not on the same playing field as DC. And yeah, we're a little fish, but we're a loud fish. So we said, what can we do? I did the two things I knew how to do best. I started to connect people and we started to educate people. So we had a local event that we would do here every month called Women in Podcasting, where we basically answered questions and did it and provided a teaching tool for women who wanted to be in the industry. It was extremely local. It was, come to a location, let's just talk and meet each other. We took it online. A month after the pandemic, we opened it up and did not expect the response that we got. The first weekend we opened it up, 2,000 people joined on a live stream for 2 hours with us.
Wow.
And it just kept growing. And we started getting people from other continents, and we started getting people. And then we realized there was that women wanted to learn, people wanted to be engaged with it. And we wanted to be able to provide that for them. I also started reaching out sort of within the community, not just the community of other podcasters and audio professionals, but my community of entrepreneurs, because I work with a lot of creatives, and a lot of us within that first 2 months really struggled. It was panic and then it was struggle because there was no money there. And sometimes it was as simple as a phone call. It was, I became like this, the house mom who was just texting everybody like, how are you doing? I'm checking in on you. You doing okay? Sometimes it was, what do you need? I see you're working on something. Can I help? It's, do you need to borrow my equipment? Do you need me to, do something for you? Do you need me to come bring things? When the protests happened, I happened to be at home. I'm high risk, and I have one child that is high risk. So we couldn't be out doing protests. And I at first I felt like super guilty, like I'm not out there. And then I realized that 20-year-old me would have only had her body to give of service and be out protesting. 46-year-old me has a valuable asset that they need. I have money. So I immediately started reaching out to the network of people and saying, hey, where are the cash apps? Who needs food? Who needs this? How can we help? How can we get things connected? And I feel like that was the most important piece of what was happening. Was there's a moment in which you sit still and just kind of go, I don't know what's happening. I'm not going to say I didn't do that. I ate a lot of red vines and a lot of Pringles. But then you kind of mobilize and you start to think, what can I do? It's the example that my parents always set for me. My mom always said, you as long as you can get up every day, there's something you can do. It's, you still are the captain of your fate to some extent. And I tried really hard to embrace that. I tried really hard to set that example for my kids. I tried to incorporate them and make sure that they didn't, because this was absolutely a shell shock for any kid who went from school to being at home all day, to being isolated from their friends and their social circles, and just a sense of safety. So to be able to put a little bit of power back in their hands and say, hey, we're going to raid our house and get as many cans as possible to donate to the food drive. Hey, we're gonna go through and check our little monthly budget of like fun things that we would normally do that we can't do right now, and see if we can donate those funds to bail funds or something else. Like, let's figure out how we can be helpful right now. And it feels like that's still continuing, because we know that this is, we have we're gonna have a much longer relationship with COVID than we wanted to have. But knowing that just, I tend to, mind you, I'm also in Aries, which means I'm incredibly stubborn and pretty well fearless about things that I should probably be afraid of. But understanding that just means, as long as I'm here and as long as I draw a breath and as long as I get a chance to wake up the next day, there's more I can actually do. So you get up and you just make your best effort every day to continue to do.
Got to get up. Yep. Do you have a question, too?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot there to mine from all of those answers, but
right.
We've been forced to kind of all evolve by this set of circumstances. Let's say things had gone swimmingly and none of these things, these crises that we've got, and this is your life last year or something, and we all have crises, but are there any habits or practices or routines that you have that you use to kind of help your own growth and help your own evolution, kind of routines or practices or things you lean on that you find kind of inspire you to kind of continue to grow and evolve and change, kind of a wellspring, that you would go to recharge? I'd be curious to know.
I mean, other than red vines and Pringles.
And that's a good one.
I've been there.
Yeah, you know why we ask these questions too. It's really very selfish. We're like taking notes.
Yeah, we're picking up our tips for sure.
I'll say, just for me personally, that when you're an entrepreneur and you run a small business, you tend to be hyper focused on your small business, sometimes to the detriment of yourself, to the relationships around you, and sometimes things that you have aspirations to do. Everything that's been happening with the pandemic has made me refocus on making sure that I'm doing things that aren't just for me and don't just serve me. So getting back to acts of service, like my family, recommitting to, more solid volunteering than just writing a check to an organization. Making sure that we are being, good stewards and good neighbors, like checking in on our elderly neighbors more specifically, making sure to, especially during the pandemic, we all took responsibility for getting all of the apps on everybody's phones and explaining to the elders in our family how to use them. so that we could see each other's faces and we could actually talk to each other and communicate with each other. And I feel like that's turning out to be a really big source of not just self-care, but community care, because it gives me just as much as I get from it, being able to see my mom and dad on the phone and being able to talk to aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles, and being able to stay connected to, to cousins, and all of those things are turning out to be really, really vital, because I don't think any of us realized how isolating it would feel to be in our houses for extended periods of time without access. And I happen to live in a very crowded house with 5 people and a dog. And still there were times where we felt really lonely and detached. Special occasions would come, and we would realize, oh shoot, we'd be with grandma today, or oh shoot, we'd be with friends today. So I think that's been a really significant help, is to remember that we do still have a community, and that we actually have all this technology we can use to keep that community going. It just has to look a little different than it normally does.
So really reorienting to that North Star of community and service within that community and engagement there, that keep coming back to that. Yeah, that's cool. That's really good. Michelle, Nikki, you guys want to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Twila. I think that social connection is so important. I'm a very extroverted person. I love meeting people, and family is really important to me. And something that keeps me going is, it was sad at the beginning because my brother and his wife had a baby, and they live out in California, and we were planning on having a baby shower, and we ended up having to do it over Zoom. But it was still really nice to see her, and he texts us, videos and pictures, and that kind of keeps me motivated and going when I'm feeling down. I just, see a picture of her. I'm like, oh, there are good things going on in the world. And so I think social connection is super important. And it's actually been kind of somewhat of a silver lining during this pandemic, is that at least in the beginning, people were reaching out. We hadn't really thought to use Zoom. I have friends all over the world, and we started to connect to check in on each other, make sure that people were, safe, that they were healthy, that they were staying sane. And so that was a sort of a blessing, to be able to connect with people that some of them I hadn't talked with in years. And so that was really great. And the other thing that I did was I took this free course on the science of well-being, and she outlines 8 different techniques that are scientifically proven to help you increase your well-being. So social connection is definitely one of them. Meditation is one of them. And those are the things that we're starting to add into the assistant that we built, because they've really helped me stay sane during this time, and to add them into my routine so that I have those breaks and I have that time to spend with family and friends, even if it's just over Zoom.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to, we keep hearing from people, it's hard to stop working or separate yourself. I mean, I'm sure everyone here on this call or on the Zoom is guilty of this, or just encountering this, of just not knowing, oh, the day is done. No, it's never done. It's just because it's always there. And it's, now that you're not going somewhere else, it's just always there, and it's hard to
you
stop.
don't have that black and white, hey, I'm back from work or whatever. Although as an entrepreneur, it's
you're all doing that anyway.
It's tough. But I did hear a term, the gray zone, of just, it's not on or off, you're always kind of on, and just how that leads to burnout. It's really difficult, having an end of day ritual where you just kind of always, you make your list and you light a candle, you do something, so you can turn that off. Yeah.
Still got to try that.
Got to try that one of these days.
Nikki, what about you?
It's interesting. I've never worked more in my entire life than during all of this. The one thing I will say is, I didn't start working in restaurants. That wasn't my background. Jamie and I just clicked, and we just work really well together. And I'll never forget when I first started working with her at Grand, I was like, this is how restaurants run? Like, what? Like, it is you just push and you push and you push and you push and you push. And people have this fantasy that there's like so much money to be made in restaurants. It's like, there's no money to be made in restaurants. So it's like you're killing yourself every day. And I remember walking in and being like, this isn't okay, this isn't okay, this isn't okay. We have to worry about everyone's mental health. And, like just reintroducing, because when you're in it, it's such a tunnel, but reintroducing those things. And so we worked really hard. But then the longer I was in it, then I started going into that deep hole of it's like, I only worked 15 hours yesterday. Like, I am like so lazy, And so when this happened, it was like a whole stop. And it's like, okay, how do we take care of everyone again? Like, I remember when we closed, we decided to close before the government closed everything down. And it was a very emotional experience. Jamie and I woke up Sunday morning and I called her. I was like, we can't do this anymore. We have to close. This is like, we're putting people at risk. Like, there's no amount of money that is worth spreading this virus, and we sat down and we power planned, and we were like, this isn't going to be a 2-week thing. They are going to close stuff down. I think they closed stuff down on that Tuesday. And it's like, it's not going to be 2 weeks. This is going to be a very long time. Next year, we're still going to be in the same position. Like, so it was, how do we do this? And how do we go back to, it's like my brain suddenly went back to of like, okay, we have to stop. Kind of like the abuse you don't realize you're having in a restaurant. Servers tend to take abuse from guests. And they're like, oh, it's fine. What else can I do for you? Like, it's like everything is just like this la-di-da. And in the meantime, your brain is just like, oh, like super frustrated. So when all that was happening, it was like, went back to those very first days of working at the restaurant. Like, how do we have to protect everyone? We have to pull back. So I've never worked more hours, but Jamie and I take every day, like we're going to go walk on the river this morning. Like, we're going to go, not on the river, but we're going to take a lovely coffee walk, and how can we make sure we're okay? And we also create this space of, if a team member comes in and they're like, I don't feel mentally well today, we're like, go home, take it, like whatever. Where it used to be in the restaurant, it'd be like, you keep pushing, it doesn't matter. Like, you're weak if you can't do it, so long edge of this I'm overly explaining it, but never worked harder, but working smarter right now.
Mm-hmm. Recognizing when you need that break.
Yeah, it's very stressful. I mean, we've created all these new business plans. We're constantly trying. We have to purchase product in order to make products. So we still have to make money, but we don't want to make money in any kind of selfish way or to put anyone at harm or at risk. So it's this constant. I mean, right now we're like, okay, do we close indoor dining again at Grand? Even though it's like there's only 12 guests in the restaurant at a time, masks totally spaced out, 4 employees, super safe, but it's like, it's not worth it. So
daily evaluation at this point.
Yeah.
Oh man. How about this one? I got a good question for you. Is there any one person or organization that you admire and demonstrates the skillful evolution?
I personally admire the new relationships that have come out. I'm a very introverted person. I don't put myself out there. Even saying yes to do this was like, just do it. It was very scary. But when you open that up, it's really great. Like just Twila, hearing you describe, what you do. I have a 14-year-old daughter. That's like my whole thing, raising her is like how my only goal in life is to raise a strong, independent woman. And so by me saying yes to this, I got to hear what you do. And I just think that is beautiful. Along with everyone here,
All right.
That's delightful. And I already snuck and followed Nikki on Instagram. So mutual.
I know it's beautiful too. It'll just make you so hungry.
I will say I have been in awe of what the Coven has been doing from day one. I was already a member. I I love those ladies. They are already so generous in spirit and in action, and how they show up for a community, and how they show up in what they're trying to do, and how they wanted to execute their vision. And they had a physical co-working space that got closed down by COVID, and within 7 days they launched a digital platform to keep everyone connected, to not just have a sort of a digital space where we show up and see things, but coffees and meetings and get-togethers and safe space, and the ability to like work with background noise when you needed it. And just, they just made this Herculean effort, and they never thought twice about it. They just said, this is what our community needs, we're going to provide it. And at every turn, they have just continued to do that. When the protests started to happen, they mobilized for everything, for food gathering, supply gathering. They took donations. They turned their co-working spaces into drop-off centers, and it's still going on to this day. I don't have enough words to express how much I admire the work that they do. I just count myself really, really fortunate to be among people that they call friends.
That's cool. Yeah, I've been seeing them out there as well. They were on our last happy hour here, actually. So, Michelle, what about you?
Yeah, I love the Coven. I would also do a shout out. I've been helping out with a nonprofit called Minnesota Healing Justice Network. And I met them at the beginning of the year. And it's basically a group of doulas, midwives, nurses, birth workers, body workers, artists, healers that identify as Indigenous, Black, or people of color. And when the pandemic hit, they started providing emotional support. We had calls, Zooms, every night to create space for people to connect and dance, or just do whatever you needed to do to kind of release some of the frustration and the tension. And, after the murder of George Floyd, we even stepped it up even more. There are a lot of mothers who weren't able to get food or diapers. And so everyone there was an outpouring of support where we gathered materials, food, diapers, and delivered them to the people that needed them, and provided space for people, because it's obviously a lot of trauma. And so I think they've done a lot of really great work and have grown a lot as an organization and evolved. And so definitely want to shout out to them, because it's been a tough year, but I think they've really stepped up and are helping the community to heal.
And all of these guys have really sustained. I remember back in March, everyone was like going gangbusters. When everything got closed down, it was like, oh, okay. And then we realized like, oh, gee, okay, wait, this is like a marathon here. Slow down. You're not sprinting to the end anymore. But that's really impressive that all of those organizations have been able to just like, I don't know what their secret is, but to kind of step back and pace themselves so they're not running out of steam and just, kind of like, okay, that was my idea, and now I'm just done.
Mm-hmm.
I think I will say on that, I love the Coven. Absolutely love. One thing in our team, when we furloughed everyone, we just had this small core that we brought in, all volunteer based. And that really was our fuel to keep us going, of like, okay, what can we do to help? Where's our outreach? What can we do to give? And that's what kept us going and fulfilled us. And it was like, I remember when Donald Trump sent the check out with his signature, I took that check and I went right to Costco and I was like, Gatorade, everything, like, what are we doing? Like, I spent the whole entire thing and then just like gave it to the whole team. It's like, where do you want this to go? What are we doing? We had our base downtown Minneapolis at East Side, so all the protests would come by. And I'm also immunosuppressed, so I couldn't partake in that. But what I could do is give Gatorade, give food. So we would just like line it up. So that personally in our own team, we just continuously just worked together and inspired each other, which was a really beautiful thing, because everyone got to have their voice. And we were just like, we're only a team of 10. Like, this is it, and everyone would have like, well, this is something I am, feel really strongly about how much money do we have to give here and how much money. And so we would all work together and be like, okay, let's do this for this group, this. And then our one focus is we have to find one thing that we can donate to that we can create a connection with, because once things do open up, then what can we do with that? And we ended up working with Haven House. And so we would supply meals for them, and just hoping just to create a continued relationship with them, and how can we evolve and just make sure that that's always a part of what we do. We are always giving back no matter what. We make this amount of money, how much we're going to take this portion of that amount, and where does it go? So it's love watching the coven, love watching so many people grow, but also in our own team, seeing everyone just kind of it's beautiful.
So given these experiences and all this that we've gone through at this point, what is the one bit of advice you would give your, 18-year-old self?
Go to bed.
Get good sleep.
That would be your statement.
I feel like I tell my 18-year-old self to trust your gut, that it's right. Because I think it took a long time for me to learn how to do that. And I think it's because we have all of these things around us that teach us that there's an acceptable way to be in the world, and there's an acceptable way to think in the world. And we really genuinely need more dreamers and doers. And surprisingly, a lot of the time, those are the same people. We just took away their ability to and tamp down their ability to dream as big as possible and then chase after the thing, or to get in and do the work of the thing. And I say all the time, I talk freely and openly about my path and about how you can get on a path, because I don't think it should take you 20 years to find the thing that you can most contribute to the world. It took me a long time to figure that out. I want to shortcut it for everybody else.
Was there something that kind of sparked it? I mean, I know you say it took 20 years, but was there something that was like, okay, a turning point that just
you were intentional about wanting to be, not on the radio, but doing the audio and kind of doing that kind of work, the podcasting?
Honestly, the real intention of it, I mean, the real spark that put me on any sort of a path, I always say this and it sounds really cliche, but I genuinely, I had children, and my path to my journey of being somebody's mom is really rooted in, there were things I would suffer for myself my whole life that I just thought, oh, that's how it is. That's how things go. And then they showed up, and I realized I wouldn't suffer one thing for them for 1 minute. They are not allowed to have an experience in which they suffer needlessly if I can help it. And that required, quite literally, it felt like somebody found a switch in the back of my head and they turned it on. They said, okay, now you get to be all of these things unapologetically. Like there was a superhero in there somewhere, and you just never took her out.
I love that.
Yeah. And then it just kind of sparked everything. When you want to model fearlessness for your children, you take risks. When you want to model kindness for your children, you show kindness out into the world. And I wanted them to see then and even now that it's a process. It's not easy to do, but they see me working toward a goal and working toward a vision and working toward, an idea. And I'm very transparent to say, this might not work. We might just be telling a story in 3 years about that time mom tried to start a business, but I don't want you to be afraid to try. And I don't want you to be afraid to put yourself out there in the way that makes you comfortable. If anything, my children are going to look back in 20 years and go, oh, my mom used to bug me all the time about starting a business. She used to bug me all the time about like running for office. She used to bug me all the time. But I feel like that's, what a gift that is to be able to see, from one generation to the next. I talked to my mom just 2 days ago, and she said to me, I couldn't have done the things that you get to do now. And she said, and I don't regret that. She goes, I just think it's remarkable that you're not only getting to do that, but you're getting to do that now. You have children, you're in your 40s. She said, that would have been an absolute impossibility on top of everything else that I couldn't do in my generation. She's proud of what I get to do. And that, that just makes me more determined to go, if my mom can look at me like that, I want my kids to be able to look at me like that. I want them to feel fortified enough to go try to do things, like that too.
Right.
But that comes down to your gut. You have to listen to it. And that's the hardest thing, especially to be a girl in this world. The thing that people, mess with the most is your ability to think, highly of yourself. I suffer from delusional confidence. You cannot tell me I'm not good.
I love
everything else I follow. So.
All right, Michelle, what about you? What advice would you give your 20-year-old self or 18-year-old self? You've changed it. 18.
Yeah.
Just a pup.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Twila is saying resonates a lot with me, and to be more confident and to take those leaps, because, my parents were refugees from Vietnam, and for them, it's so important to have stability. So they were always telling me, you need to have a really stable job and, do really well in school so that you can get that stable job and not to take risks. And so that had been trained in my brain, and I was just socialized to think that. And not only that, but not to maybe speak out or take those risks that I should. But having confidence, I think, is so important, and willing to be vulnerable. I've really been inspired by a lot of what Brené Brown talks about with vulnerability and having the willingness to step into the arena. I've always been more of a behind the scenes type of person, working really hard, coming up with lots of great ideas, but always, being the supporting role. And it's taken a lot. It's taken many years, and watching some really amazing women in my life step up and be leaders, and that has given me the confidence to also step into that role. And it took a lot, and I still fight it some days. As a technologist, we'll be developing and building something. I'm like, oh, it's not perfect yet. We can't put it out there. But being willing to be vulnerable and put something out there that maybe isn't perfect, so that you can quickly get feedback and iterate and make it better and improve it. I think that's really important. And I would tell my 18-year-old self to be more confident and to take more risks, and be willing to be vulnerable and not have all my ducks in a row all the time.
That's good advice. So what did your parents say now that you're an entrepreneur? You're like, okay, what are you doing?
I mean, they are obviously nervous about it, but I think it helps too that, I have a brother who also is a serial entrepreneur, and he took that step. And, I think in the end, they want us to be happy and to do what we really love. And so, it makes them a little nervous, but they're watching us and they're seeing us grow. So I think they are proud of us.
That's great.
Michelle, I'll get you connected. We'll connect your parents with my in-laws, because my husband's Vietnamese. So we're in the same boat.
Yes.
You do what now? You
get it.
I would honestly be remiss if I didn't point out that Michelle and I have only met once previously, very briefly in person, but I have watched what she's done in the market and what she's done professionally here since January, when her name first came across my desk. And I have always been incredibly impressed by the work that she does, and incredibly impressed with how she presents the idea. And even hearing stories from different friends of mine who work in the service industries who have been working with her during COVID, I've heard nothing but wonderful things about how she stepped in to help her community. And that's something that I admire it anytime I see it, but I particularly admire it when I see someone starting something new and still making that point to invest in community while they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I have to say that I've been fangirling when I met Twila. So I was one of those 2,000 people that logged into your female in podcasting. So.
Oh, that's cool. All right. We're reconnecting people live here on YouTube. Nikki, you mentioned sleep, but maybe you have something more too.
More advice for that 18-year-old self.
I think I would tell my 18-year-old self the same thing I tell myself every day: is keep pushing, keep going. I think it's just keep pushing. And your voice matters and your opinion matters. And just because you speak up doesn't mean you're being emotional, or doesn't mean you're, it's like your voice matters. Keep pushing.
Mhm.
Same thing I tell my kid, She's very loud though, so it works.
I'm just gonna say amen, because I love it when we hear women tell other women to speak loudly.
Yes, that has been, it is that too. It's like everything that I would have told my younger self, it's what I am trying to raise in my child. I the proudest moment, I think she was 11, and she wore a tank top to school, and she got like dress coded, and she was like, what? And she came home, and I was like, build your case, bring it to the office, present it, tell them why, and and I will step in if you need me, but you need to, you need to do this. And she went in, she did a full report, and she was like, this is why it's wrong. And I just
That's great.
yeah, and she keeps going with that voice. So yeah, keep pushing.
All right.
Yeah.
Sig, do we have any questions on YouTube?
Hey, sorry, I needed to unmute myself. We do not have any questions from the YouTube channel yet.
We're kind of it's time too.
Should we have one wrap up then? This
Yeah.
one? Okay. Sometimes people are shy. Maybe we're just asking the right questions. I don't know. How about summing up the secret of successfully evolving in 3 words? It's always a hard one. 3 words.
I'll take it. Oh, go ahead, Nikki. You got it.
Oh, you.
I was going to say, I would say 3 words, learn, change, and grow. I think those would be the 3 that I would pick.
I like that. Nikki?
The only word I can think of is being open, to being, your growth is never final. So always being open to more growth. There's no, you never can stop. You can never stop growing. So I only have 1 word, open.
Way to narrow it down.
You said
Usually
3
people are
words
like,
or less.
okay,
That's
5
perfect.
words,
Yeah.
and I can't pare it down. Twila, what about you?
I think that's unfair. I get paid to talk for a living. You ask me to narrow it down to 3 words. Usually I think the easiest thing that comes to mind is change, because it's a constant. Growth, because I know I'm still growing every day. And love, because it's turned out to be a profound part of all of this, much more so than I ever imagined. The actions I take in service of the love of my family, the love of my children, ultimately things that I never really thought about, with like the love of the country that I live in. All of these things have impacted how I have evolved very rapidly on some things, recently. But it also seems to be bedrock. It's foundational to me moving forward.
I love that. We all need that, especially right now. Sig wanted to mention some question. Sig, do you have the question?
Yeah, so I was just curious, and this doesn't have to be a woman, or it could be really anyone, past, present, or future, that you most admire, and why.
I can start. 2 women come into mind. First, it's my own mom. I think she was the first entrepreneur I ever knew. She owned a really successful fabric business back in Vietnam. And when my parents immigrated to the US back in 1975, they ended up in Kansas, of all places, because they were sponsored by people there. And we grew up in a very small farming community that I think was actually known as the KKK capital of the world at that time.
Wow.
And she didn't feel comfortable or confident in continuing her business because of all the language barriers and the cultural barriers that she faced. But she was still able to, accomplish a lot in her life, and has always been an inspiration to me about just how resilient she was. I mean, she literally was pregnant with my oldest sister on their way over to the US. And just the stories that she tells about their first Halloween in the US and their first Thanksgiving in the US and seeing snow for the first time has always been an inspiration to me. And then the other woman that I would say is my mother-in-law, was an incredible woman who struggled a lot with health issues in her life and was still able to raise an amazing son, my husband, and caring for her really taught me a lot. And when she passed, it really gave to me this lesson to take those risks, to take those leaps. And so that was kind of her final gift to me, was to learn that lesson so that you don't have those regrets. So I would say my mother-in-law and my mom are the two inspirations in my life.
Awesome. Wonderful. Anybody else?
Oh no, Twila, I saw you. You go.
No, I'm gonna have to stop myself from crying before I can pull it to you. So please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say two again. One would be Jamie Malone, who's my business partner, and through this is truly my best friend in the whole entire world. I mean, we discuss everything from business to real life, everything. She inspires me every single day. The things that her brain can come up with, and it's just, she's amazing. So it's a constant inspiration that I get to have on a daily basis, face to face, which is amazing. The second would be my father. He's just like the greatest human being in the whole entire world. The reason I feel like I have any love and compassion in my body is because of the things that he has taught me from a very young age. His dad wasn't around, and his mom got very sick when he was a kid, and so he kind of had to raise himself, but he took all these tools and how do you're not angry because of your upbringing, you just create more love. And he's amazing. So I've watched him, he's beat 4 different types of cancer, has almost died multiple times. You would never know it looking at him, and he's just constantly inspires me every day. I can't see him right now, so it's really painful. But he sends me, our little thing that we do is he texts me like the Far Side comic strip every morning, and then I'll find ones to send him, and so that's how we connect now. But he's a constant inspiration of just like, let's get the job done, through love.
Cool.
Well, that's not going to be easy to follow up at all. Y'all have amazing people that you come from. It's going to sound redundant, but it's very true. My mom is everything. If you know me for more than 5 minutes, you've heard a Trudy story. Because she's a remarkable human, and we joke. We've always lovingly and jokingly referred to our upbringing as being raised by 2 dads, because my mom was not a mom. She was listen, there's a world that you're about to walk into, and you need to be ready for it. And I'm going to make sure that you're ready for it. And she did that with all of the loving specter that she could, but with this very specific stoic shell of wanting us to really survive. And it's been a real pleasure to watch her become a grandma and soften around the edges and have that extend back to us. So she's deeply sweet and wonderfully spoiling my kids. But she is now open to a point where she makes a point to tell us that she's proud of things that we're doing. And it's not just, we don't have time for that. We just do the work. Now she's holding space for memories and holding space for, for sharing feelings, and being able to watch her, grow as we've grown has been an absolute 100% gift. I'd say the other person that I genuinely admire and always admired, she was my favorite person on the planet, was my grandma on my mom's side. She's the first person taught me about money. She taught me about money by letting me work her illegal grocery store in her apartment building when I was 12. But she was the first person to tell me that you are allowed to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And if you have the tools and you understand how they work, no one will ever be able to box you in. And that's a really powerful thing to learn as a 12-year-old girl, you know, in the 80s, especially a 12-year-old Black girl who lived in the South in the 80s, that you can make your own money, that you could be trusted with money, that an adult would trust you with something like this. Now, mind you, she trusted me to, you know, help keep the entire illegal operation alive. But that, you know, that makes for some really fun memories now. But I didn't realize probably until 2 years into the business just how profound that was, that I learned that from her, and just how much confidence it gave me when I truly needed it to push past things that made me uncomfortable in my entrepreneurship journey. You know, when it came time to handle real money or negotiate a contract or say no to something that wasn't fair to me, all of the seeds of that were planted when I was 12. I just didn't realize it until I absolutely needed it.
Wow. It sounds like a small change story.
It informed a lot of where we went with the show. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we were kind of hitting our time.
Yeah.
But I want to once again mention the Eastlake promo code of Happy Arc to get the 20% discount on beer and delicious food, all of that. But I really want to thank all of the panelists and the everybody that participated today. It's been really a great conversation. I always walk away from these, honestly, I kind of walk into them like, why are we doing this? Like, this is another extra thing to do. But I always leave like, oh, that was really great. That was so much fun. It gives me juice and energy. And I'm sure that that's kind of like nourishing for other people as well. But I really thank all of you so much.
Absolutely. I echo what Lisa says. We explore these values because these are what help us to orient to the world, and just love you all sharing your wisdom and your stories with us. And I'm deeply appreciative. Thank you very much. And
thanks, audience, for
thanks
joining us.
for tuning in.
All right.
And
bye, everybody.
Also, one other thank you. Thank you, AJ, who's behind the scenes, who's helped us coordinate, and Signe for making these connections. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.